Does your wallet feel a little fatter? The Census Bureau reports U.S. household incomes jumped 5.2% last year. That's the first gain since 2007. WSJ national economics reporter Nick Timiraos joins us from Washington with more. Hi, Nick. We know the recession officially ended in 2009, but it certainly has taken a long time for some of those benefits to be seen on Main Street, hasn't it?
Yeah, that's exactly right. The recession ended in 2009. But this report yesterday from the census showed it was the first time since 2007 that incomes rose by a meaningful margin. And so we're still climbing our way back from the downturn. We're still about 1.5% below where incomes were in 2007 when the recession started. And we're about 2.5%. The median income is 2.5% below the all-time record that we set in 1999. So it's really been a lost decade and then some for American workers.
And it still, as you said, doesn't completely erase the gap left by last decade's recession.
That's right. I think the one of the many notable things in this report that was really heartening to a lot of economists was that, sometimes when we've written about income gains, it's been skewed towards the top, right? So we've heard about the rich are doing better, but those at the bottom not getting ahead. This report actually showed that the largest annual increases were at the bottom 20%, and that the income increases last year were really widespread. So you look at this by age, you look at it by race and ethnicity, you look at it by the size of the household, and with one exception, which I'll get to in a second, almost everybody came out ahead. The only group that didn't see an increase in wages, or in incomes rather, last year were people who live in rural areas. But outside of that, and really on this kind of income inequality point, that was better news.
Rural areas for sure hardest hit. Now, the Census Bureau's data also shows some good news for women with regard to the pay gap, correct?
Yeah, that's right. They looked at full-time year-round workers, men versus women, and again, both groups saw their wages go up. Men went up by about 1.5%, but women went up by 2.7%, and so that narrowed the gap, the pay gap between men and women to around 80%, women making 80% of what men make. So there's still a gap, but it's the narrowest it's been on record.
Now, that's certainly good news. But, Nick, do these numbers make it clear a sustained income upturn is underway, or could other factors hold this in check as we go forward?
That's a great question. The big reason that we've seen incomes go up now is we've had several years of strong employment growth. And so, when we write about the monthly job numbers and we say, well, wages only went up 2%, I mean, that's only a piece of your household income, because if you go from being part-time to being full-time, that's going to be much bigger than a 2% increase in your income, right? The question now is, as the economy nears what economists consider full employment, the unemployment rate is down below 5%. It doesn't seem as if it's really going to fall that much further. How are we going to continue to grow incomes when maybe everybody who wants a job has a job, and so that's going to be there may be less room to grow there. We'll see.
But still, Nick, these numbers look to be good enough to certainly put a little pressure on the Fed to raise rates, don't they?
Well, these numbers are dated, right? So this is a survey that covered 2015. The 2016 numbers, so what's happening right now, we won't get for another year. So if you're the Fed, this is really so far in the rearview mirror that you're saying, okay, this is good. We added, 2.4 million full-time jobs last year. Finally, we're seeing some evidence that that's associated with higher incomes. But it doesn't give you a whole lot of real-time news you can use.
Right. All right. But considering that it is positive economic data, how could this information impact the presidential race? I mean, it certainly looks good for Democrats, no?
Yes. I think, the president yesterday and his advisors were ecstatic about the report. They were saying, see, this is just proof that the recession that was really bad, we're finally coming back from it. We're crawling out of this hole. they've been saying that a lot, and now they have some numbers to put behind that. For the Clinton campaign, it's really helpful in the sense that it deprives Donald Trump of a talking point, because Donald Trump has been using these numbers when he goes up on stage and says, see, incomes compared to 1999 are so much worse. And now, because that gap has narrowed, it maybe robs him of that talking point. But there are still things you can point to in this report. For example, the median wage for a full-time male worker is still about $100 below where it was in 1998. And so when people say, well, why is there all this economic stress out there, you can still see that in some of these numbers.
Sure, and there's still troubling numbers around the poverty level as well. We got to wrap it up there, Nick. Thank you so much for that.
All right, thanks.